Okay, good day everybody. Mike here. I'm down at Mill Point, or what I call the practice area at times. The paper mill's right over there behind the trees. The causeway here leads out to the island that they call the dryland log sort, and as you can see right now, the tide's out far enough that you can actually, walk out to some of the islands if you want to get your feet muddy. These islands, this one and the other one over here, have private owners, and the main island up here is owned by the lumber company. Just on the other side of this is where the big logging ships load up to take logs to Asia and places like that. And over on this hill they actually have a train track that runs along there, because they operate their own private locomotive that goes into the paper mill right behind it. And years ago, this used to be the area where the company would have their, their company picnics, where, you'd get all the families and the kids and stuff like that. It's owned by the natives. It's one of their historical archaeological sites, right on the coast, of course. So, I thought I'd give you a little look around. I'm down here to practice with the tarps and the hammock and stuff like that. This is one of my favorite trees in the area. It's a nice big old arbutus tree, and try and give you a shot here of one that's close up. Now this one's really old. It's probably on the verge of the end of its life, but you can see the arbutus has bark that just flakes off, and that's normal. They have a kind of a unique look. They're only found in a few spots here on the west coast, probably down as far as maybe northern Oregon, I'm thinking. Maybe a little further south, but. And then over here there's a plaque. I actually climbed over this little fence to get a better picture of that plaque. This is a 2,000-year-old native site. So we're gonna hop in the car here. I've got the car, and I brought some supplies to practice with. I've got my tripod, I've got my little hiking pack, fresh cup of coffee, and then I also brought my Hennessy hammock. So we're gonna head over and find a place over here where it's nice and clear, and try and practice a bit with the tarps and the hammocks. I'm not going to film any specific watching me set them all up and stuff. What I might do is just set them up, and then I'll video the finished setup, and maybe talk about some of the features that I've used and stuff. So I can't use any real tent pegs down here. I've got these little needle type 5-inch aluminum pegs that I can stretch things out and show you what they look like. So let me get all my gear, and I'll hike over there and find a place to try and set up. Okay, this is one of the bays behind the point that I'm on, and of course the tide's out. This is where the clam boat comes with their crew of guys. And they'll bring like 10 or 12 people for the day. And they'll dig up, well, they told me their best day was close to 10,000 pounds of clams. You know, that's 1,000 pounds per person in a day. And they just leave their little punts and their extra boats over here in the bushes, and they drive down here and do their deal for the day, and then they work over to, you know, another bay or something like that. So I thought you'd kind of like to see where they do that kind of thing. Okay, before I finish doing some adjustments and stretching the whole thing out, I thought I'd give you a look at the basic setup here. I got some tree straps there, and each end is anchored to a strap, of course. Finding the right distance between trees is really critical with hammocks. This is actually a little bit too narrow. Anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to show you was this mesh. They sell something called snake skins, which is exactly, you know, what they do is what you see here. But this is actually a loofah for the bathtub from the dollar store that you just cut the string and stretch it out, and it costs about $30 less than a set of snake skins. So now what I end up doing is just pulling the whole thing to one end. It's kind of hard to do here with the camera in my hand, and anyway, I pull it all to one end and then unravel the hammock, as well as the asymmetrical tarp that came with the hammock, and then you can hook up the tarp and then do the final adjustments on the hammock. So I'll do that now. Okay, I had to come back and grab some stuff out of my pack because I needed one of these 8-foot utility lines that I keep a whole bag of. And I've got some other these are 30-inch general use. Those are ridge lines that are only 10 feet long for setting up clotheslines and things like that, camp kitchen. And I've got some smaller cords here for doing prussics, some homemade stake drivers and stake pullers to go with my selection of small stakes, which, you know, I can probably use them here okay. And then this is the ridge line for my heavy duty AquaQuest Defender 10x10 tarp, and then I also have a little cheap $10 ground sheet. So I'll get to them eventually here, but I want to finish the hammock here, so let me get back to that. Okay, guys, it's all about getting out and getting a bit of exercise and having a little bit of fun. You know, practice some skills. I'm in horrible shape, so I gotta do something. You know, sitting in front of the computer editing YouTube videos is killing me. Anyway, we've got the hammock kind of set up. You know, needs a lot of fine tuning. I did actually live in that hammock for 3 or 4 months, probably about 12 or 15 years ago, and the last time I had it set up was about a year ago. So you gotta keep on top of this kind of stuff. So anyway, I just used one of my little utility cords here because the trees are a little bit too close together here, and staked out the fly. And the hammock might need some adjustment as far as the angle. You want about a 30-degree angle approximately. So, and the guy lines that stretch out the hammock probably should be extended and stretched out a little further, but I want to do a few more sets, so I don't want to monkey around, you know, on one set. Anyway, and then we've got a diamond A-frame. This is a, sorry, let me loosen this off a sec. This is a really, really heavy duty, like, I want to say like 10 or 15,000 denier waterproof rating. It's probably the most waterproof tarp on the market. I have another tarp that's a little bit different that I used about 10 or 12 years ago. Anyway, same thing here, fine tuning, maybe adjusting the height of the ridge line. And then I'm going to move the tarp around and create a few different types of shelters. You know, it's all about making use of the terrain that you have. You know, this is just, like I say, the practice area. So now normally a ridge line would just come over here, and then with the toggle you'd just anchor to the one tree. However, I made these kind of experimental triple toggle ridge lines because you use one at the initial end where you're hooking it up, and then one at the other end of the tarp. What kind of camp doesn't need a clothesline? So in this case, I just wrapped around the tree and continued along, and then anchored it on this end, and then you got a little bit of a clothesline to, you know, hang a sleeping bag to air out or something like that. So let me change up the tarp sets and we'll see what else I can come up with. Okay guys, this is probably the most boring, uninteresting tarp shelter you can put up, but at the same time it's, you know, one of the best. It's just a typical straight A-frame, and you get really good wind protection from two sides completely. You know, it's easy to use debris or an extra tarp or small, you know, piece to block off one end, or there's other ways to rig it so you can close one end. So this is really one of the best shelters going. Let's see what else I can come up with. Okay, this one needs a little fine tuning as well. The ridge line really should be, you know, a little bit higher. This piece right here. This is what I would call like a modified plow point over a ridge line. Lots of room under there, guys. It's a 3 meter by 3 meter, so actually 9'6" by 9'6" or something like that. Lots of room to stretch out a sleeping pad. You know, no matter if you're 6'6", you'd still fit under there. And room for your pack, all your hunting gear. You know, you can keep firewood under there to keep it dry if you want. It gives you a relatively good, you know, it doesn't look like it the way it's set up right now, but it gives you relatively good protection from the wind, you know, about 2/3 of the way around. In fact, I think you could easily get, you know, 2 people under this one. And of course you'd need to put, you know, more stakes around the back end or whatever. But if this got raised up a little bit, it would look dramatically better. So we've done diamond A-frame, standard A-frame, modified plow point over a ridge line, And we've got the hammock over here, of course. Needs fine-tuning, I know that, but stretch it out, give it a little bit of air, make sure there's no parts missing. You know, I've already thought of a couple of things. I need some bigger tree straps and stuff. So, and I'll try and figure one other one to show here. It's probably going to be a long video, but what the heck. Okay, last one for this video. This one is, I guess, what I'd call a modified A-frame or modified lean-to. It's also a pretty simple one to set up. Now, some of the details here before I forget. I just use Prussics with loose ends, and then I use like a double sheet bend. You can't pull on a sheet bend hard enough to, you know, that you can't untie it. So it would be easier probably just to put toggles on and then stick the toggle through here each time I switched, but I prefer to go with the sheet bend. And this is just a standard Prussic. And then over here on my utility cords, I just use a bowline on one end. And down there I just tied a bowline where I wanted it to be as well, because a bowline knot is always easy to untie as well. So same here, this needs to be adjusted and kind of maybe move the tent peg over to a different angle. Of course you'd want to clear out all the debris, or at least roll around in there for a while and flatten it out, leave it for insulation. This is also a pretty good shelter. It offers really good protection from the rain. One side completely protected from the wind, if you know where the prevailing winds are going to be. It's got a good overhang for shade. And if, you know, if the ridge line wasn't going through here, but if it was just going through the end along the front, it would just be considered a regular, you know, lean-to shelter. So that's another, you know, good one to learn. These are, you know, these are great for survival and stuff like that, but you know what, guys, you might not be into that stuff. You might not be a hunter, you might not be a fisherman or a hiker. Maybe you just don't care about woodsmanship, which is fine, you know, but if you have a tarp and a few lines in your car, you know, maybe you break down in the middle of nowhere and you got to get out of your vehicle and set up something to get out of the sun, or you know, maybe it's the middle of a blizzard and you got to protect yourself somehow. So there's a lot of reasons to learn some basic, you know, shelter making skills. And then as far as hammocks go, don't let anybody fool you. There's some special things that you need to know about hammocks. One of them is below about 17 or 18 degrees Celsius, maybe like 70, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, you will absolutely freeze the heck out of yourself. You will not sleep well unless you put some kind of an underquilt hanging from, you know, below the hammock, or you know, a fully wind protected tarp over top. I mean, like fully protected. Like, I cannot stress it anymore. I mean, a hammock is fun on a nice sunny afternoon just to lay around in a little while, but if you're going to try and sleep in one, you'll find out soon enough. You can really get cold, you know, in the middle of the summer at night. So okay, so 3 o'clock, I gotta get out of here by 4 or they lock the gate, and then they're really in a bad mood when you want to get out of here. So I think I'm gonna start wrapping this all up and pack it back into the pack and take a few photographs and head back home. It's been a good afternoon to get out and do a bit of exercise and have a little bit of fun. Have a great day, everybody. Mike out.